Hello and welcome back to Nerd Doc. The new Thor Love and Thunder trailer has finally hit the internet, and we got a great look at Christian Bale as Gorr the God Butcher. This video covers who Christian Bale is playing, providing a look at just who is Gorr the God Butcher in the comics, as well as how the character appears to be shaping up in the MCU. We'll start with Gorr from the comics, then move on to how that may translate into Gorr in Love and Thunder and the MCU. There are chapter timestamps below, so you can jump around as you wish. If you have any questions or theories about Gorr the God Butcher and how Love and Thunder will handle him, leave a comment below. Gorr may be one of the most tortured souls in the MCU. At a young age, he was constantly in fear of starvation and lost both of his parents. He believed and trusted in the gods, praying to them for help, but his prayers were never answered. Eventually he married and had several children, but his wife and every single child died one by one over time. As you might imagine, this caused Gorr to lose belief in his gods, but he was exiled by his people for this disbelief. Gorr set out across the desert of this unnamed planet, hoping and praying that his life would be taken, putting him out of his misery. It was at this point that he witnessed two gods fighting. One of these gods was Knull, the Dark Elder God who created Venom and the Symbiotes. Knull was incapacitated during the battle, and his weapon of choice, the symbiote Necrosword All Black, bonded with Gorr. Enraged by all of the misfortune in his life and the failure of the gods to help him, Gorr set out on a mission of vengeance to kill any and all gods. Hence his name, Gorr the God Butcher. After thousands of years, Gorr eventually reached Earth, where he continued killing more gods. Gorr has had a few encounters with Thor and his Norse followers, which all started once he arrived on Earth. The two fought evenly many times, with Thor almost losing during their first encounter and eventually cutting off Gorr's arm, mistakenly thinking he had killed Gorr. After this encounter, Gorr continued to slay gods for hundreds of years, while also learning more about All Black. Gorr figured out that he could use All Black the Necrosword to create versions of his deceased wife and children, as well as minions called Black Berserkers. The closest thing to Black Berserkers in the MCU are the hordes Thanos used during his invasions of Earth in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Every time Gorr would slay a god, he would leave a Black Berserker behind to attack anyone who asked about the fallen god. This was mainly in case Thor came looking for him. Gorr also has the ability to time travel. He has traveled to the distant future where he fought against King Thor and even sent his Black Berserkers to the past in an attempt to bring a young Thor back to the future to be enslaved. At one point during these time travel shenanigans, present-day Thor, young Thor, and King Thor from the future all fought against Gorr. Remind you of anything? While it may be too much to ask for triple Thors in Love and Thunder, especially after seeing multiple Peter Parkers in Spider-Man No Way Home, and a number of Loki variants in the Loki series, at the very least, Gorr will be a formidable opponent for Thor. Gorr the God Butcher is an Omega-level being in the comics. When he fought King Thor, the battle destroyed solar systems with ease. For Thor Love and Thunder, we know Jane Foster becomes Mighty Thor. In the comics, while Thor is away fighting Gorr, Jane is diagnosed with cancer and eventually becomes Mighty Thor sometime later. It's very likely Jane will have cancer in Love and Thunder, so there's at least a loose connection to Gorr in place already. Gorr will fight against Thor and Mighty Thor at the same time, which means he will likely be at least somewhat close to his power level in the comics. He may not be destroying solar systems, but at least it will take two god-level beings to give him a good fight. There are also other gods in the film that Gorr could be on Earth to kill. We know Russell Crowe is playing the Greek god Zeus. It seems fitting that Gorr goes to Olympus to kill Zeus, similar to his antics in the comics. This may even be what gets Thor's attention, alerting him of Gorr's presence and the threat Gorr poses. The only big remaining question is whether or not we see multiple versions of Thor in the movie to recreate his battle against three Thors in the comics. It's easy to see Mighty Thor taking the place of one of the three, most likely young Thor. With that, Gorr would only need to travel into the future to get King Thor's attention, and we'd have a very similar battle to what took place in the comics, only on a more cosmic level instead of the more grounded level of No Way Home. It should also be noted that there's now at least one symbiote on Earth in the MCU thanks to No Way Home. There's a chance that ties into Knull and we get more of him down the line. It feels more like that would be some sort of post-credits scene, but it really depends on how much we see of Knull in the movie. He's very likely to show up at some point, even if it's just as a flashback for Gorr's origins, so there's at least some chance Knull has more MCU appearances coming down the road. That wraps up our coverage of Gorr the God Butcher. Once again, if you have any questions about Gorr, feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves Thor and Marvel.